You know, there's this one tactic in football that splits fans and experts right down the middle. For some, it's an absolute masterclass in defensive genius. For others, it's a crime against the beautiful game. Today, we are going to dissect the art and the science of the low block and see just how deep, disciplined defending can bring down even the biggest giants.
So I'm sure you've heard this a million times, right? A commentator says a team is parking the bus, and you immediately picture this desperate, last-ditch, all-hands-on-deck defending. But what if I told you that parking the bus is really just the most extreme version of a highly organized, super deliberate strategy? Well, that strategy is the low block.
At its core, the low block is all about building a fortress. The whole team, everyone, drops deep into their own half, and they create this compact shield right in front of their goal. And the goal? Well, it's pretty straightforward. Deny space, frustrate the heck out of attackers, and force them to play around you because there is just no way through you. This isn't chaos. This is a coordinated, disciplined wall.
All right, so here's the game plan for today. First, we'll nail down what the low block really is. Then, we'll peek inside the manager's playbook to see when they use it. After that, we'll get into the non-negotiable principles of the fortress, see how teams actually build this wall on the pitch, and finally, we'll look at why it's such a high-stakes gamble.
Okay, so let's really dive into the fundamentals of this defensive fortress. The big idea is to compress all the space and the most valuable real estate on the field, that final third. By pulling your defensive line and your midfield line super close together, you create this dense, compact zone right in front of your own penalty box, which makes it incredibly difficult for attackers to find any gaps.
Now, to really get what the low block is all about, you got to look at its total opposite, the high press or the high block. A high press is all about aggression, right? Pushing your team way up the field, trying to win the ball back deep in the opponent's half. The low block, it's a strategic retreat. You actually give up territory on purpose. You invite the other team to come at you. Also, you can set up that unbreakable defensive shape deep in your own half.
So you might be asking, why on earth would a manager choose to do this? Well, a low block usually isn't a team's default setting. Think of it more like a specialized tool, a strategic weapon that gets pulled out for very specific situations. So what are those moments that call for building the fortress?
You'll typically see it in three classic scenarios. First up, you've got your classic David versus Goliath matchup. An underdog team will use the low block to completely neutralize a better team's creative players just by denying them any space to work their magic. Second is when you need to shut up shop. You're hanging on to a one-goal lead late in the game, and survival is all that matters. And third, maybe it's a high-stakes away match where a single goal could be a disaster, so defensive solidity is everything.
Okay, but here's the thing. Building this fortress isn't just about throwing a bunch of players back there and hoping for the best. No way. It takes absolute commitment to a set of non-negotiable principles. This is where raw effort transforms into tactical genius. And discipline? Well, discipline is everything.
A successful low block really hinges on four key things. First, compactness. The space between players and between the lines of defense and midfield has to be squeezed to an absolute minimum. Second, cohesion. The entire unit has to move together like they're all connected by invisible strings. If one player shifts left, everyone shifts left. The goal is to protect that central danger zone and force attackers out wide. And finally, you need incredible patience. Players have to fight every instinct in their body that tells them to lunge in for a tackle, because one reckless move can tear the whole structure apart.
But here's the secret weapon, the part that makes the low block so much more than just defense. It's a coiled spring. The second you win the ball back, the trap is sprung. See, the other team has pushed all their players forward, and now you launch a lightning-fast counterattack into all that space they've left behind. The perfect example? Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan against Barcelona back in 2010. A true masterclass in turning defense into a devastating attack.
All right, so how do managers actually arrange their players on the field to build this wall? Well, it all comes down to the formation and how well it's executed. There are a few formations that are perfect for this. You've got the classic 4-4-2, which gives you these two really solid, disciplined banks of four. It's simple and effective. Then you have a 5-3-2, which adds a third center back, perfect for defending against teams that love to whip crosses into the box. A 4-5-1, or its even more defensive cousin, the 5-4-1, just packs the midfield, making it almost impossible for the other team to play through the middle.
But look, no matter what formation you use, at the end of the day, it all boils down to one thing: defending the most dangerous area on the entire pitch, the penalty box.
Because the low block invites pressure, this is where the game is won or lost.
And successfully defending that box is a whole art form in itself. It's about protecting that central golden zone, no matter what. It means defenders have to be masters at tracking runners, anticipating every little movement, and being willing to literally put their bodies on the line to block shots. It takes insane organization to deal with cross after cross, and above all, the mental strength to stay compact and disciplined when the pressure is absolutely suffocating.
And that brings us to the big picture here, the ultimate strategic gamble. Because for all of its strengths, choosing to play a low block is a major trade-off, and it comes with some pretty significant risks. So let's break down that trade-off. On one hand, what do you get? You get this incredible defensive solidity, that lethal counterattacking potential we talked about, and you save a ton of energy. But, and this is a big but, what are you giving up? You are inviting constant, suffocating pressure onto your goal. You're sacrificing most of your own attacking threat. And you can be completely undone by one moment of brilliance, like a perfect long-range shot. It really all comes down to this core tension. A low block demands immense discipline, communication, and flawless teamwork just to work. But the price you pay for that security is inviting wave after wave of pressure, essentially daring your opponent to find a tiny crack in your wall before that clock runs out. It is a tactical high-wire act.
So, we're left with the big question. Is the low block a brilliant tactical masterclass, or is it the death of beautiful football? Is it a smart, pragmatic tool that lets underdogs win, or is it a cynical tactic that just stifles creativity? Well, now you have the tools to analyze the fortress for yourself. The next time you see a team drop deep and defend for their lives, you'll know exactly what's going on, and you get to be the judge.